Hi, welcome to this webinar on Payara Micro 41154, which is the latest edition, which was released a number of weeks ago. Today, I'm going to give you a brief overview of Payara Micro, the types of technology and applications you can run on Payara Micro. Then I'm going to show you where you can download Payara Micro from, how you can run some simple web applications on Payara Micro, and lastly I will be touching upon the Payara Micro API and how you can use it to launch Payara Micro server instances from within your own Java applications and projects. Okay, so firstly, I'm going to give you a brief overview of the types of technologies that you can run on Payara Micro. There are a number of technologies which are supported where you can develop applications using multiple different web technologies, along with others within the JE7 software stack, including JSPs, servlets, JPA, JTA, CDI, JCache, JAX-RS, among some others, including interceptors and the concurrency API. So yeah, there's multiple types of technologies which you can develop your applications with, which will run on Payara Micro. In terms of the micro edition of Payara, it is close to 60 megs in size when you download it, which is approximately half the size of the Payara full distribution. And yeah, it's a lightweight version of Payara, which is, I suppose, in terms of it being aligned, it would be most closely aligned with the Payara web profile in terms of types of application it supports. You can't run EAR files or enterprise archive files on Payara Micro. At the moment, it supports really only WAR files. So yeah. Okay. So second thing, now that I've given you some kind of overview as to what Payara Micro is, and the types of technologies and applications you can run, I'm now going to show you how you can download and run Payara Micro on your own machine. Okay, so if you navigate to payara.co.uk, the Payara homepage, click on the download section, you will see here multiple different distributions available for Payara, and the one we are interested in is the Micro edition. So if we click download, it should just take a minute to download. And here we can see that it's a single jar file, an executable jar file, which we will execute on the command line. I had downloaded this earlier, so there's no need for me to download again. Okay, So I have here, let's just clear this off. Okay, so within here I have downloaded my version of Payara Micro 41154 jar file. As you can see, it's around 60 megs. What you need for it to run is to have the JRE available on your path. In my case, I have 845 Oracle JDK. Yeah. So okay, to launch Payara Micro, you simply use the -jar option to the Java executable along with the jar file, the Payara Micro jar file, and it will launch on its own. You see here. So if we blow that up slightly, one moment. Yeah. Okay, so that is Payara Micro, which has launched. Now with Payara Micro, it comes with Hazelcast clustering technology, which allows the various different Payara Micro instances to automatically detect each other via a number of means. Out of the box, it uses multicasting, UDP multicasting, to detect and send messages to other Payara Micro instances on the same network. So what I'm going to demonstrate here is on my own machine. I'm going to launch multiple different instances, and I'm going to show you the output from let's minimize that shortly. Yeah. Let's bring that up. Okay, so that's our first single instance, which I've just killed. Okay, there's a number of different options which we can use, which we can provide to Payara Micro at startup time on the command line, or programmatically, as we will see later on in this webinar. But one of those options is the -- deploy option, which will deploy a war from its specified location. And in my case, I have it on my desktop for simplicity. So if we launch, this is it'll launch an application called cluster.jsp, which is a very simplistic web application containing a number of servlets and JSP files. So I have launched that. By default, Payara Micro's HTTP service runs on port 8080. So if I now were to attempt to access my application on port 8080, we can now see some of the default HTTP session details, which are retrieved as part of the application itself. Okay, so as I discussed earlier, Payara Micro comes with inbuilt out of the box web clustering, or clustering of instances across the same network using multicast by default. Of course, there's multiple other options which you can use. You can configure clustering using static TCP, providing a list of TCP IP addresses of the members of the clusters, so that Hazelcast can then knows of those specific cluster members from their configuration. But now I'm just going to launch. What I'd like to do is just launch another instance of Payara Micro and demonstrate the clustering in action. So if we go to here, we go OK. Let's launch in same application in a different console window on my local hosts. You will see establish connection between my own local hosts. It's communication, and here we go. Voila. Okay, so we can see that there's two. It's always interesting, and probably one that many of you may come across. As you can see, the address is already in use. So, as I said, the default HTTP service runs on port 8080. So, in order for us to override the HTTP port to our own port, we provided -- port option with the port number we want to specify, since 8080 is already on use by our other Payara Micro instance. Launch this again. And that should take a moment to start up. You can see it has established a socket. You can see our cluster members, 2 members of our cluster. And there's one application that's being deployed to this specific instance. So as you can see, we've two instances up and running at present. Minimize this window up. You can see here each instance has detected the other instance. We can see here the Hazelcast logging, com.hazelcast clustering, that cluster service detects 2 members in each. Okay, so I'm going now to stop one of these instances, and just to show you what should happen is that the other member should detect there's only one member in the cluster and that the other one has dropped out. So you now see there's only one member in our cluster. So there's a number, since Payara Micro itself doesn't come with a CLI utility such as ASAdmin, which comes with the full profile to administer your instance or Payara Micro instances, and doesn't come with your administration console, your domain console. There are still, what we've done is we have, in this particular version and in earlier versions of Payara Micro, we have given users the option to override specific options or specific fields and ports and various configurations within Payara Micro, such as the HTTP port as already seen. We provide options such as the -- domain key, which allows us to specify a different domain.xml than the one that is bundled with Payara Micro jar file itself. We can specify the min and max HTTP threads. There's multiple options here which we can configure. Okay, So now that I'll relaunch this instance up, so now I have two instances up and running. What I'd now like to do is to show you how to launch Payara Micro instances from within your own Java projects and applications. So what I have done is I have created a very basic Java application which will launch, which will create an instance of Payara Micro. It'll set the HTTP port and instance name. Tell the instance to deploy a specific WAR file, the same one as we were using earlier, called cluster.jsp, and start up the actual instance itself. There are other API which is available to the Payara Micro class, which I'll briefly show you in a minute. But for now, I'm just going to quickly walk through this specific simple project and show you how you can create a basic Java project, Java application, which will launch and use Payara Micro from within. Okay, so I'm using an Eclipse IDE here, but you can use an IDE of your choice, such as IntelliJ or NetBeans or whatever you normally work with. But in here I've just created a simple Java project, created a new class called Payara Micro, which has your standard simple main method. Within here I have defined to say, okay, I want my own custom HTTP port to be a value of 10,000, so the HTTP service of this particular Payara Micro instance will run on port 10,000. Give it a name, a server name test server. Then the Payara.get instance say, okay, give me an instance of Payara Micro, set the HTTP port via the relevant method, add the deployment, and finally launch Bootstrap to start up the service, start up the instance of or the Payara Micro instance with the specific deployment. As I said, there is additional methods available within the Payara Micro class, which essentially cover exactly what the various options you would view in the help menu, which allow you to do the exact same as those options specified in the help menu on the command line, except you're just setting them programmatically using this API. Okay, so now that oh yes, for those who, I've created a very simple project here, add into my build path the Payara Micro jar file so that my program can build and run. But for those who are have their own Maven project, Payara Micro, embedded and embedded web are up on Maven Central, so all you need to do within your own project is to specify the relevant Maven coordinates to your project, such as the group ID fish.payara.extras, the artifact ID Payara Micro, and the version. And of this time, the latest version is 4.1154, and yes, that should be it. So yeah, if you are using Payara Micro and within your Maven project and need as a dependency. These are the coordinates you need. Just to briefly show you, you can see here up on Maven Central we have embedded all Payara embedded. It's Payara embedded web and Payara Micro is what we're interested in, and here's the different versions which are available of Payara Micro up on Maven Central on 154. Yeah, and you can see here you can pull down the specific jar file into your own Maven repo, into your own local Maven repo. Project build time. So now that I've shown you the project, I just want to show you that I'm just going to briefly launch the simple Java application, which will launch an instance of Payara Micro on port 10,000 with that specific name, and you can see here from console output it's launching a third instance on my own local host, and as you can see there's 3 members of my cluster. If we go up to the relevant Hazelcast logging, so there's 3 members. It has detected the other 2 members running on my local host, and the same with the other instances itself. Okay, I think that wraps up this brief webinar on Payara Micro, how to run and execute web applications on Payara Micro. We gave an overview of some of the options which you can use to override the HTTP port, and how to deploy applications, and finally we went over how to develop, how to embed or launch Payara Micro using its API from within your own Java applications. I'm just going to briefly, if you have any further questions, just go on to there's plenty of information on the Payara Micro website. So within here it gives a list of our services that we offer, some very cool blogs which are always interested in reading. We generally tend to update them weekly on Payara, and how to configure, and it gives you some nice demos on how to gives you relevant information on the latest Payara instances, etc. Our contact information, if you wish to send us an email or query of anything, we are on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Visit any of these links, or just drop us an email, info@payara.co.